Here are 12 simple tools that will help you to solve common problems in After Effects, and all of them are part of a very affordable package named Mobo Utilities from Motion Boutique. So this package, which keeps evolving, consists of simple utilities that does one thing, but they are doing it very well. And they can help you to save blood, sweat, and tears on almost every project. Now, before I'll show you the tools, I want to mention that a few months ago, I did a live stream for another super useful script, which is Mobar, a panel with a collection of time-saving tools in one place. This script offers different solutions, and I highly recommend for you to check it out. The video is called Top After Effects Extras, and the link is just under the like button. But now, let's begin with Mobo Utilities. The first one is Add Path Vertices, which is very useful if you are using path operators. So to illustrate it, I'll select this OMG text, right-click on it, and choose Create Shapes from Text. Then I'll open up this shape, and under its contents, I'll select the O. You can actually just select the O shape, and you can see that we have many vertices. This is also true for the G, but the M in this case got just a few of them because there is no need to express it with more than what we are seeing on screen. Now, the problem is going to be very apparent if I use one of those operators, such as, for example, pucker and bloat. I'm also going to add wiggle path, as well as zigzag. Now, this is way too much, but this is just for the sake of illustration. So I'll switch off for a moment the visibility for the wiggle path. Let's just concentrate on pucker and bloat, and I'm going to take it to a negative value. And you can see that the O and G looks different from the M. And again, just to illustrate how this looks with wiggle path, I'm going to change the size of this to 40. And you can see if I'll play it, the appearance doesn't look like it is in the same design language. So, of course, same is true for the zigzag effect. All right, so the way to fix it, I'm going to re-enable pucker and bloat so we can see the result in real time, is to select the shape that you want to add vertices to. So in this case, the M, I'll click on the path, and then assuming you install the mobile utilities, you can go to the layer menu, and over here you will see a new command, Add Path Vertices. Here you can choose to add vertex every number of pixels. So in my case, 80, I'll click OK. And as we can see, this is going to add additional vertices, which is going to improve the appearance of this M, making it more consistent with the other letters. I'll switch off pucker and bloat, switch on the wiggle path, just to show you this now looks much better, to my opinion at least, and the same is true for the zigzag effect. The next two tools will allow you to export animated PNG and GIF natively from After Effects. Now, you already know everything about GIF. You may also know that it is a limited format in terms of quality and file size. However, animated PNG, which is based on the PNG format, which is a lossless format, can preserve transparency, meaning alpha channel. And this format can be read with most major web browsers. So let me show you how this works. To demonstrate it, I'm going to use this composition. And if you want to know how I created it, I've got a full-length course over at LinkedIn Learning. The link is down below. Anyhow, I'll stop it for a moment and I'll switch off the background. And this is going to show us our transparent background. And now what I'll do is go to the composition menu and I'll add this to the render queue. I'm going to click over here. This is the default setting. And from the format pop-up menu, I'll choose animated PNG, which is something that you can access only if you install the mobile utilities. Now, you can also resize it at the same time. So I'm just going to resize this comp to, let's say, 800 by 800. And if I want, I can also override the frames per second, which I'm going to do in another menu. But for now, I'll choose RGB plus alpha. If I'll click on the format options, we can tell it how many times we want it to loop from 0, which is infinite, up to 10. I'll leave it like this. I'll click OK. And I'm also going to click on best settings here because I want to change the frame rate of this comp from 30 to, let's go with 15, which is a common frame rate for those kinds of exports. I'll click OK. I'm also going to click on the output too. And this one is going to be just the animated PNG, so I'll remove all the redundant letters. Next, I'll click on this little plus to duplicate this output. I'll click again, and this time I'm going to select GIF, which is again something that you'll see natively inside After Effects, only if you installed the mobile utilities. For the format options, you can choose how many colors you like. I'll leave it at 256. And you also have options for looping. I'll leave it on forever. I'll click OK, as well as resize it to 800 as before. And then I'll click OK again. And just because I'm very compulsive, I'm going to change the name of it to just gif.gif. All right, I'll click Save. And finally, I'll render it directly from After Effects. Once the render has been completed, I can open one of these, click on this hyperlink, which is going to take me to the desktop, and I can see the files. I can also see that there is an embedded alpha channel here, and this is the GIF version. Really efficient and very useful if these are things that you need to do on a regular basis. The arrow plugin draws an arrow, unsurprisingly, with a predefined arrowheads. Now you can choose to draw a straight arrow, meaning 2 control points, or a Bezier curve with 4 control points. And you also have several options which allow you to customize the look of the arrow. And to illustrate how this works, I'm going to use this guy. Now, the arrow plugin should, in most cases, be applied to a comp size solid. So I'll press Command Y, I'll call this one arrow, and the color doesn't really matter. I'm just going to make sure it is set to the comp size and click OK. I'll go to the effects and presets, and I'll open up the Motion Boutique category, and double-click on the arrow plugin. Now, as you can see, we have an arrow that we can pull and set from wherever we want. So this is the default appearance. I think that most of the things here are self-explanatory, but anyhow, I'll show you how I can design it to look even nicer. So let's just scale the stroke width to 6, and then we can change the line cap. So this can be a bat cap or a round cap or a projecting cap. Let's go with round cap. I'll show you what I'm after. By opening up the dashes, I'll enable the dashes, and this means that I can control the dash and the gap. So I'll bring the dash to its minimal 0 size, and then I can change the stroke width to something bigger, as well as play with the gap. So what I'm trying to create is something which looks similar to those dots that I'm seeing over here. Now, because we are modifying it so dramatically, we are changing the arrowhead look, which now looks ridiculous. So I have access to the end scale, and I can change it to whatever I like. Now, I can also set it from a straight line to a Bezier curve, which is going to add another options here. So actually 2 controllers. This is the first one, and this is the second one, which is going to make it look even nicer. If you want, you can also change the start style, and you can pick from 39 different arrows. Now, to see them, just click on Show Styles and have a look and choose whatever works for you. So maybe arrow number 21, I can just select it from the list here, which is going to create this kind of a circle. And of course, I can scale it down. So something like this looks like it is going to work beautifully. Now, if I want, I can duplicate this and create additional ones. So I'll press Command D, and then I can move it to point to a different location. So in this case, maybe the Harley Davidson over here. So I'll move everything, starting with the starting point and of course the end point. And I can do whatever I want with those handles, so it would look nice and interesting. So maybe something like this. Of course, it doesn't point on the motorcycle, so let's just fix it quickly. And as you can probably see, we are not seeing the previous one. And this is because we need to check this option, Composite on Original. So this is going to allow you to add as many arrows as you need. And the last thing I want to show you under the Advanced is that you can click Convert to Shape Layer, which is going to create a comp for you. And if I'm going to open it up, you can see that we now have a shape layer and all the contents are consolidated over here. So we can animate it, we can add the trim path, and we can have a lot of fun with this effect. Bake all expressions will convert all the expression found in selected layers into keyframes. And then if you want, you can remove all the expressions with another command to avoid missing effects or errors. Now the conversions can be done at a current time or over the entire working area. And to illustrate it, I have this composition courtesy of Dodo Motion or Ido Katsiri. And as you can see over here, we have some missing plugins. If I'll open it up, the rubber hose, which is not installed on my machine, is missing. And this is because Ido used it to create this lovely character animation. Now to see it, it's still working, but again, it is missing. And if I want to clean it up or just to speed up a project, I can select all the expressions in this composition, and I can do it by double tapping the letter E. So EE in sequence is going to show us all the expressions. I'm going to maximize the composition panel by pressing the tilde key. And over here, we can see that we have plenty of expressions. Again, these are still working, but let's say that I want to bake them to keyframes. So what I'll do is select this layer, and then I'll command click on the other layers that have expressions. So everything over here, and then we have a few other layers with the time expression. So let's also select these. And then I'll go to the animation menu and I can bake all the expressions in the selected layers, which is something that After Effects can't do for multiple layers at once. Now notice this ellipsis. This means that we're going to see a dialog, and this is going to ask us, do we want to do it for the current frame or for the entire working area? I'll choose work area in my case, and I'll click OK. And now all the expressions are going to be turned off, and the project now have keyframes instead. Again, I'll unmaximize the comp and press spacebar, just so we see that nothing has changed. And if this is the case, and you just want to clean your project while everything is still selected, I can go to the animation menu again, and this time I'll select remove all expressions in selected layers, and as you can see, they are gone. A cool and easy way to clean up and tidy up your projects. If you've used the collect files command to package your project, you probably know that unlike Illustrator or InDesign, After Effects doesn't collect the fonts that you've used in the project. So you'll be happy to know that now you can do it with a single menu command. Now, this is excluding Adobe Fonts, which is cloud-based fonts, so you don't actually need to collect them, but I just wanted you to see this so you'll know what to expect. So to engage this command, go to File and then choose Collect Fonts. This is going to ask you for a destination folder. I'll click on this ellipsis, I'll create a new folder and I'll name it Fonts. I'll choose Create, click Open. And if you want, you can also save a font list to text file. Let's do this. And then I'll click OK. It will give you an indication of the fonts that you are using in this project. Click OK, and that's it. Now, if I'll show you the desktop, this is the fonts directory that I created. Here is the fonts list. Now notice that we don't see everything because some of the fonts that I've used are using Adobe Fonts and they don't need to be collected. They are going to be synced automatically when the next person is going to open your project, or maybe it's going to be you in a few years. But the other fonts, which are commercial fonts, are going to be part of this folder. So obviously you need to obey the license of your font. So make sure that you are not distributing stuff that you can't. But if you need to collect fonts, this is the way to do it. The color palette effect will expose the dominant colors in a layer or a comp. So to illustrate it, I have this composition with many colors. I'm going to park my current time indicator over here, and then I'll create an adjustment layer above everything. This is Command Option Y. And now I'll open up the Motion Boutique category, and I'll double click on Color Palette. This is going to scan all the layers underneath, and it's going to show me, in this case, 5 dominant colors. Now we can set it to show more. So let's go with 10. It's going to run again, and it's going to sample the 10 most dominant colors in this composition, which is so cool. You can also change the bar height. So maybe set it to a lower height if you don't want it to interfere, as well as right-click on it, and just to be on the safe side, change this one to a guide layer so it doesn't render. It will only be used to sample colors and create additional content. Now over here in the palette, you can drill this down and click on From Current Time, which is going to populate all of those color chips with those selected colors so they can be referenced using expressions or other effects in this project. The color transfer effect is a really cool plugin that will help you to recolor a layer to match the color characteristics of another layer. And this is very useful for consistency as well as for compositing needs. So let me show you 2 examples. I have this comp with this mountain tree and a cliffhanger jeep. Well, at least this is the way I decided to name this clip. Now we can see we have 2 different colors, which takes us away from the story. So to match those colors quickly, I'll select the Jeep layer and I'll double click on the color transfer effect. From the pop-up menu under target layer, I'll select the mountain tree, and by default, it will probably create an over-the-top result. So you have options. You can use the first color space, which is this L alpha beta, or the CIE LAB model, which to my opinion will give you better results. You can also play with the correlation, the shading shift, and other properties. So I'll take the shading shift to 0, and then I'll play this comp again. So this is how it looks, and I think we have now a much better consistency between those 2 clips. Let me show you another example. I'll double click on this composition, and over here I need to do a bit of compositing work. So I'll make sure to select this dancer, which was filmed in front of a green screen. And then I'll go to the effect menu, and from the keying category, I'll select key light, and I'll quickly key out the green color. So this looks okay at this stage, but notice if I'll take my current time indicator and move it, the background is changing colors. So this is a real headache. I can match it manually, but it will take me a long time. So let's see how I can utilize the color transfer effect. I'll double click to apply it to the layer, and then I'll target the background layer, and I'll switch the color space to LAB, which I think looks better. And as before, I'll change the shading shift to 0. And now if I'll press spacebar to play it, you can see that it keeps the color consistent and it will match the foreground with the background, saving me hours of work. Copy Color is a plugin that allows you to pick a color and get its hex value saved to the clipboard. Then you can paste it into any color dialog box that you want. Now, due to the nature of this command, this plugin must be called using a keyboard shortcut. Let me show you what I mean. So you can see it over here under Edit, Copy Color, in parentheses, use a shortcut to call me. So let's climb up 2 levels and select Keyboard Shortcuts. Over here, we'll need to type Copy Color to see the command, and then I'm going to set it to Option C here on the Mac. You can do Alt C if you want on the Windows side, totally up to you. I'll click OK. Now, just to show you the After Effects limitation, I want to bring the info panel on screen. You can see that if I hover on top of this blue color over here, or maybe over here, I can get to the RGB values. And by the way, I'm using a 16-bit per channel project, so this is why we are seeing those numbers. But there is no way to see the hex value color. So I can change it to web, but then again, it doesn't really work. So what I can do is just hover on top of the color that I like, maybe this kind of blue, and then I'll press Option C. This is going to copy the color as well as show it to you in the info panel. So you can see the hex value. And now I'll move my current time indicator. I have my logo over here. I'll go to the effect controls and I'll click on the color chip And over here, I can just press Command V and then click OK. And that's it. Now I have the same color. And of course, I can use it for my UX or UI work as well. The MultiDuplicate command will allow you to duplicate a layer multiple times. No surprises here. Let me show you one example. So I've got my logo here as a shape layer. And let's say that I want to create, I don't know, 500 copies, 100 copies, 50 copies, whatever. Before just copying it, I will go to the effects and presets and I'll type wiggle. And this is going to isolate, among other stuff, the wiggle-rama behavior. I'll double click to apply it to the logo over here. And I'll change the wiggle speed to 0.1. I'll leave the wiggle nervousness to 1. But I will change the position to, let's say, 1000, as well as change the wiggle rotation to 1 full revolution. Let's just zero this out. And I'm also going to change the scale to 100. So if I'll just preview it, this is what I did. This is just a single logo that goes outside of the screen. Now, because wiggle is going to give us different result based on the index number of the layer, if I'll duplicate this layer more times, you can see that I'm getting different variations. But again, if I need to duplicate it, let's say 50 times, it's just going to save you a lot of time. So I'll show it to you by selecting this logo layer and then going under Layer, Duplicate multiple times, and I'm just going to type in 50 for the sake of this demonstration, click OK, and just like that, I have 50 copies. All are using the same wiggle-rama values, but each one is a different variation. This can be very useful if you're also using the Newton plugin and you need to duplicate a lot of layers to create some physical simulation. PasteImage is arguably the best tool in this package, at least for me. This plugin will allow you to paste an image from the clipboard into After Effects. So to illustrate it, I have this clip that I've generated using Leonardo AI, but let's say that I want to expand this from a vertical aspect ratio to a square one. So to help me achieve it, I'm going to use generative fill inside Photoshop. Now you can copy stuff from After Effects to the clipboard using the free FX console from Video Copilot. I'll put a link in the description. If you choose to do it, just make sure to set the resolution to full. This is very important. And then you can just launch the tool, click on Copy to Clipboard. It's going to copy whatever you are seeing here in the desired resolution. And then I can switch to Photoshop. I'll press Command N to create a new document, and then create the document and press Paste to paste the image. I'll say goodbye to the background, and then I'll click to select the birds, and I'm also going to use the contract selection, move 2 pixels inside, and then inverse the selection, and finally I'll click on Generative Fill, and Photoshop will use Firefly to create 3 options that looks like this. Number 1, number 2, number 3. So I like number 3 here, which means that I'm going to say goodbye to layer number 1, just hide it for the time being, select this generative fill layer, I'll press Command A, so all the pixels are selected, and I'll copy the pixels to the clipboard by going to the Edit command and choosing Copy or pressing Command or Control C. Next, I'll return back to After Effects, and by default, if I'll go to Edit, I can't use Paste to paste this information. I'll need to use PasteImage, which is part of the mobile utilities. Now, before doing so, I'll hold down Shift and then select the command, which is going to give me 3 options. So I can choose a custom folder, I can paste those images on the desktop, or I can just have them inside the project folder, which is my preferred workflow. So I'll click OK, and then I'll have this image pasted, and I can just play this clip. Now, you can do it not only from Photoshop, meaning that let's say that I want to use Firefly, which I've already started using to create a nice title. So you can see this is the text, this is the prompt, and I have 4 different options here. I think I'm going to go with the first one. What I need to do is go to the More Options, choose copy image. This is of course now on the clipboard of my machine. Return back to After Effects. I'll make sure nothing is selected. Go to the edit menu and choose paste image. Of course, I can define a keyboard shortcut for it if I want, but for now, I'm just going to paste it. It's going to be part of the project over here. As you can see, I'll scale it down and I can place it above those lovely birds, maximize the frame and preview this composition. And this is a very useful tool, at least in my workflow. Select same properties will select, unsurprisingly, all the properties that are similar to a selected property. And this can save you tons of time when you're animating multiple layers. So in this example, I started to animate those 3 cactuses. Actually, I didn't animate anything. I just set the initial position. And to show you how I did it, I'll select everything here, except of the heel maybe, and press E to show you that each one of them has the grow bound effect as well as the CC bandit. We'll return to the grow bounds in a moment, but for now, let's select one of those instances. I'll double click so we can see them in the effect controls as well. And this is the bend option that I want to animate for all of these layers. So what I can do is open the effect in the timeline, make sure to select the property that I like, and then under layer, I have the option to select the same properties, which is going to select just the bend property for each one of the layers in this timeline. I don't even need to look at them, meaning that now I can create keyframes for everyone. I can move to, let's say, here in the middle, and then animate them like so. And over here, I'll return it to the previous value, which was -20. And now if I'll press spacebar, we can see the animation. I'll maximize the timeline. I'm also going to press U to show you all the keyframes. And since we are here, we can select all the keyframes, press F9, but we can see that we have a problem, at least when it comes to this layer, which is cutting off. And this is a phenomenon that can happen when you're using the CC bandit effect. So this is why I've added the grow bounds effect, which is going to grow the layer above a certain size. So in this case, I can see that 150 pixels are not enough. So what I can do is double click on the pixels for one of the layers. This is going to show up in the timeline. So this is the guy. I'll select this value. I'll go again to the layer menu, select the same property, which is going to select it for all the other instances. In this case, 3 layers, but you can work with more. And then I will expand it until I'm going to solve the problem. And now I'll go to the beginning and preview this animation, and everything works according to what I had in mind. And this is it. I'm so happy, like those cactuses, because I think that for less than $25, this package is a stealer. And if you agree, there is an affiliate link in the description below, and by using it, you are helping my channel. Again, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you again in the next tutorial.